My name is David Otuoma. I was young the way you are saying you are final year in 1987. That's when I was a final year. The way the engineer said he's graduating in June, as we graduated in December. Those days graduations were graced by His Excellency the President, not like today when he's Cabinet Secretary. So if the President was not available, you had no graduation. But now the good thing after graduating in 1987, remember it was 5th December, on 7th December, I was called for an interview by the Public Service Commission. And because I did physics, I was offered 3 jobs. One was to be a teacher of physics, another was to be a factory inspector, and then there was a new organization called Radiation Protection Board. They wanted officers who had a degree. So I had 3 choices. That was now I graduate on 5th, on 7th, I have an interview and I picked radiation protection, not because I knew what it was that time, but it sounded novel. Teacher I knew since primary school. Factory inspector I had an idea because my father worked in a factory. So 1988, on 3rd, 5th thereabouts, I reported to the Ministry of Health and I was designated a radiation protection officer. Then I was told not to be putting on t-shirts because officers have to put on suits. And then my life became different. That was from 1988. And fast forward, 1996, I went to South Africa. So between 1988 and 1986, we were the first graduates in the Radiation Protection Inspectorate. It was under the Radiation Protection Board. So we created the first registry, and we maintained a register of all sources of radiation in Kenya. Normally there are those which are irradiating like an X-ray machine, and then we have the radioactive materials. So now we kept that register, and the Radiation Protection Act, which had formed the Radiation Protection Board, required that anybody who wishes or who plans to use a radioactive material or irradiating device, that person has to notify the Radiation Protection Board. And so we were again trained to be inspectors. So because we were the first graduates to be employed, the International Atomic Energy Agency got very much interested in Kenya. They wanted to know what Kenya was up to, because now graduates were entering that field. So they trained us on how to inspect radiological facilities. So like here in Kenyatta National Hospital, for example, now they have 3 radiological facilities. They have a diagnostic radiology, which has more than 10 X-ray machines, and you heard Engineer Rugut tell you how he does dosimetry. Then we have radiotherapy department, where they treat cancer using a cobalt 60. And very recently they have nuclear medicine department. So this is the future, because nuclear medicine can be used both for therapeutic and diagnostic purposes. There's a gamma camera. There's a special, it's not like this camera, because normally a patient can be injected a radionuclide, and then through the bloodstream it travels all over. And then when you are put in front of that gamma camera, the doctor gets a profile of your whole body. So if there's any issue in any particular organ, they're able to pinpoint where that issue is. So nuclear medicine can be used for diagnostic purposes. Just last week, His Excellency the President opened a gamma knife in Kenyatta University, teaching referral research hospital. So that's part of nuclear medicine. Because now for therapeutic purposes, if one has a cancer now, one is given a higher dose, is injected or made to inhale or made to, like the way you take a tablet. But now that radionuclide is there and it goes to concentrate in that particular cancerous area so that it can kill the cells. So our job was, we are trained how to inspect such facilities. And the Radiation Protection Act also has a provision that in case somebody does not follow the provisions of the Act, the person can be taken to court. And then you can be fined or even jailed. So now in 1996, when I went to South Africa, I learned that the South Africans had gone another stage higher. They had a South Africa Association for Radiation Protection, and they usually used to hold their AGM once in a year. And that time when I went there, I went like on a Sunday, and the AGM was on a Friday. So the AGM was very interesting. All members would be given 5 minutes to explain what they do in radiation protection. So I came to learn radiation protection is not only in human health, because like Kenyatta National Hospital is in human health. In fact, the reason Radiation Protection Board was put in Ministry of Health, people used to think radiation sources are used in health because of X-rays. I had a gentleman introduce himself as a radiographer. People used to think those are the only people who work with radioactive materials. But now, when I was in South Africa, I learned that there's a lot also in industry. So when I came back to Kenya, we went now to also industrial facilities. So like a long time ago, at General Motors, they used to make wheels for the cars. This used to be called Firestone. It changed its name, but they still make wheels. So all these wheels you see on cars, they are normally X-rayed more than 2 times. And they're X-rayed by people who have the training of a radiographer. But this radiographer does not work in a hospital. The radiographers who work in a hospital, they are explained the dangers of radiation, so they are able to take necessary measures so that they do not endanger themselves and they do not endanger the general public or the environment. But in industry, the story was different. So for example, in industry also, when you see any road, a big project like now, we just finished the Nairobi Superhighway, and maybe many years ago, the Thika Superhighway was done. All the airports, when they make any road, a long time ago, to do quality control, somebody used to go and drill and take out the materials to see how the layers of the different materials are, to confirm on the quality of that particular road. Because the way you'll make a road, let's say on red soil in Kiambu, it's not the same way you'll make a road, let's say in Kitengela, where it's black soil. But now with the nuclear technology, you use an americium beryllium source, and instead of drilling a hole, you just put that source there, and you get a measurement, and you know if the right materials are being used and compacted correctly. But now in industry, the workers there, unlike in human health, in medical, most of them, nobody told them about the dangers of radiation. So for example, the Troxler gauge, which had that americium beryllium source, you can imagine an airport. Everything is flat, like this hall is flat here, but it's like the Jomo Kenyatta Airport, for example, it is 5 kilometers long. So it's flat, there's nothing to, like a chair to sit on. So that Troxler gauge is like this chair, so you move it. So one time I went for an inspection there. So the supervisor, now that I'm the oldest here, I may be your supervisor, that one is given to him during lunchtime to sit. Everybody else is sitting on the grass, eating their githeri, but the supervisor is sitting on that radiation source because nobody told them the dangers of that. So now the thinking was that it's good we have an association, because if we have an association, we can now benefit from the people in medical. The people in medical, they understand the hazards, but there are more users in industry than in medical. And in industry, people are not given the awareness. For example, another time I went for an inspection, you see like Kenya Pipeline, for example. It comes from all the way from Mombasa, it passes Nairobi, it goes up to Eldoret. I'm not sure if it has gone to our border with Uganda, but that was the idea. So that pipeline, the pipes, when they're joined together, they are welded. Now that welding, that time they were using an iridium source. So it has to be removed from its source housing by an action of, the way you can remove water from a well. And then it goes to where the weld is. Then you take the picture of that weld. And then just like the way in medical there is a radiologist, now in industry there's somebody who understands welds. you will check that one and see if that weld was done properly. But now the issue was the person doing that work. So in Kenya Bureau of Standards, they also have that iridium source. They also have industrial X-ray which can go to the field. But guys in Kenya Bureau of Standards, they are trained like the way in medical. They understand the dangers. But the owners of this road construction, the pipeline construction, you know, you come at the gate, then they look at you, then they say, you, today you have a kibarua there. Then you are told your work is, once that weld is done, you lay that radiograph there. And then you go to the gauge and you coax it, so it goes there, and then you run 100 meters away, then you wait for 2 minutes, then you run 100 meters back and you return it. And if you know, most of us in Kenya, we don't have breakfast like I have. Most times for me, I have breakfast of ugali. But many of you have breakfast of this tea or spaghetti, the way you say. So running to and fro, eventually that guy was not even running, he was just taking it out, waiting, then bringing it back. So many years later, they come back to Radiation Protection Board and they say, oh, they used to work for this particular company. Now the doctor is saying they've developed this cancer, and this cancer is probably because of that exposure. So in 1998, our association was registered. 1999, that's when the certificate came out from the Registrar of Societies. So we started now meeting people, not only from the medical fraternity, but also from industry. And now I'm hearing some of you are even understanding issues of money. And I think going forward, that's the future, because other than Kenya, where we use nuclear science and technology in agriculture, human health, water management, environment, this year we took our first satellite to space. And hopefully in future, like our chair works for Nuclear Power and Energy Agency, we may have a nuclear power plant to make electricity. And normally nuclear power plants to make electricity, because between 1998 and 2006, I was loaned to the UN and I was working with the International Atomic Energy Agency. When I was there, out of every 100 facilities I inspected, more than 97 were nuclear power plants. They were not medical facilities like the hospital here, or agricultural, or water management. And what I learned from outside there, they use nuclear to make electricity. And actually right now, as I'm standing here before you, the country which is building most nuclear power plants is China. And why are they doing so? Here in Kenya, we produce just below 3 gigawatts of electricity here in Kenya. A country like South Africa, they produce just above 70 gigawatts. So as we are producing 3, they are doing 70. So that's more than 20 times what we are doing. Now a country like Germany, where I used to do most of my inspections, right now from fossil fuels, this is coal, gas, and oil, they are producing 76 gigawatts. And then from solar and wind, they are producing more than 150 gigawatts. So Germany produces more than 220 gigawatts. As we are producing 3, so that is more than 100 times what we are producing, Germany. A country like USA, they are at 1,500 gigawatts. And what China decided, they doubled what USA generates. So right now China is generating 3,000 gigawatts. So again, if you divide our 3, China is making 1,000 times more than we are doing. As we are not yet 3 gigawatts, them they are doing 3,000. And right now they have 53 nuclear power plants which are operating to make electricity. And they are planning between now and 2035 to have another 150 nuclear power plants. And what has been the effect to the world of that Chinese move? The effect is that electricity in China is the cheapest. Here in Kenya, Kenya Power charges me 25 shillings per kilowatt hour here in Kenya. In United Arab Emirates, they charge you 11 shillings per kilowatt hour. In China, if you are a manufacturer, the government gives you electricity at 4 shillings per kilowatt hour. So there's no way we will compete with China when we are charging our people 25 shillings per kilowatt hour, because whatever they manufacture, when you just put in the power component, because anything you manufacture, you know, the reason we have electricity, like now we've had tea, you need to heat that tea. So you burn energy. If you are to move from point A to point B, like our railway line was to be electrical, you need electricity, you know, the motion. But now with our electricity, we couldn't have the railway line electrical because you don't have enough electricity. So back to radiation protection, 2010, we held our first AFRIRPA conference here in Nairobi. It was the third one for AFRIRPA. AFRIRPA stands for Africa, and then there's International Radiation Protection Association. So our Eastern Africa Association for Radiation Protection is a member of IRPA. And also International Atomic Energy Agency is interested in relating with us. Actually, starting this year, there are only 2 countries, Ghana and Egypt. Ghana normally gives Masters of Science in Nuclear Engineering, and and Ghana gives radiation protection, postgraduate diploma in radiation protection. And the postgraduate diploma, anybody can study it, whether you are doing money issues, whether you are doing radiation issues, whether you are doing journalism, you can do a postgraduate diploma in radiation protection. So this year, Kenya is also going to take its first students. And normally these students, they are sponsored by the International Atomic Energy Agency for a period of 6 months. So you stay together, and then you all come to have a better understanding of radiation protection, because it can be applied in nuclear energy, in application in agriculture, in human health, in industry, in environment, in water management, and now in space. So the fact that we are doing advocacy, this is a future, because I was privileged between 2016 and 2018 to be the chair of the Radiation Protection, Eastern Africa Association for Radiation Protection. And that time, I think like Collins and actually Kenya Bureau and also NUPEA, we have what we call AFRA projects. These AFRA projects, they are in 7 thematic areas. They are in agriculture, applications, human health, industry, water, and of course radiation protection itself. And then we have radioactive waste management, and then now we have this future of energy. So these projects, Kenya is participating in 18 of them, but there's a possibility to participate in more, because there are areas like mining where we have not yet tapped. You know, a country like DRC Congo or even Sudan, they do more, even Tanzania, they do more mining than happens in Kenya. Kenya, you only hear of titanium and the Magadi soda, which other, I mean, we have potential, but that potential will only be realized if we are able to map the minerals in our country and know which ones make economic sense. Because while I am a scientist, I can measure and tell you there's so much uranium here or so much iron here. It is the money people who can now make a bankable document so that an entrepreneur invests in that area. So now passing the baton to the younger generation, because before Madam Queen, we had Cairo, who was in University of Nairobi as chair. The future of this association is going to be great, because now we are being noticed by people from outside Africa. And these people from outside Africa, they would like to partner with now the younger people, so that like issues of advocacy, you know, advocacy, you talk of carrying a placard or giving pamphlets the whole day. If you ask me to stand a whole day, I may need that truck's luggage to sit on, but you guys, you can do that. So the future, if you ask me, is going to be brighter than when I was there. Because again, another reason we wanted the association was to introduce ethical issues. Because we have scenarios of people claiming to have done an activity, but they never did it. You know, we call it, like you guys in university, you call it Mwakenya. So even when you come to government, people do the same things. They claim they went for an inspection to Kenya Bureau of Standards, but they actually reached in South B, and then there's a place we call Sodom and Gomorrah here in Nairobi West. They sit there, and then they have nyama choma, they drink, and then they make a report claiming they inspected the facilities in Bureau when they never actually even arrived there. So another reason for forming the association was to create good ethics. When you say you are doing an inspection, that is if you are working in radiation protection. Now it's Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority. You actually do the inspection. And I'm informed on 10th May they've invited us. So it will be good we make a good petition. We go and give it to them so that we can create a good synergy. Because during my time as a chair, I got Kenya Bureau, National Commission for Science, Technology and Innovation where I'm working. Now Kenya Nuclear Regulatory Authority to be corporate members. Nuclear Power and Energy Agency pays for its staff who are technical to be members. So there is money, and you know, as an association, our job is not to save. So ideally, the money which has been collected from, let's say, January to December, should be finished on this AGM meeting so that we have any other funds we get between now and the next AGM, they are used for that time. And that will only happen if you come up with activities. And right now, I think there is money which needs people like you to tell us how to do it, because people of my age, we may not have good ideas. Our age mates were always thinking of plots, and plots are not the future. So thank you very much.